Here's 5 manga you haven't read, but you need to. Ranger Reject. The best way to describe this story, I feel, is The Boys meets Power Rangers. 13 years ago, the invaders and their executives came to attack Earth, only to be met with resistance from the Dragon Rangers. 13 years later, every Sunday like clockwork, the invaders attack Earth only to be beaten by the Rangers. Or so it seems. It's revealed very early on that the bosses of the invaders were actually defeated in the first year of the invasion, and that for 12 years afterwards, the Rangers have been forcibly enslaving the invaders into putting on a fight that they have no chance of winning at all for the sake of their profit and for the sake of the Rangers' image. Our main character is an invader fed up with the mistreatment of other invaders and himself, and he aims to infiltrate the Ranger Association in the hope of taking it down from the inside. Much of the story is us following the main character as he progresses through the Rangers, but also unraveling the mysteries of what happened 13 years ago. Now, one of the best strengths this series has going for it is it has a brilliant premise. It also does a really good job, though, executing on that premise. There's a lot of really clever writing in terms of the world building, and exploring what it's like to live in a world where Power Rangers would essentially exist and this would be the norm. What this story does really well is taking a very simple concept to its extremes, and it's all the better for it. Ajin. What if someone you knew, someone you spoke to every single day, someone you thought you knew, turned out to not be human? In this world, there are humans and there are Ajin, and Ajin are almost exactly the same as human, but the only way to find out whether someone's an Ajin or a human is through death. Our main character, Kei, is the unfortunate victim of a traffic accident. And rather than being isekai'd away to another world, it's revealed that he is actually an Ajin himself. Due to a government-mandated manhunt and the fear of being studied in a lab, Kei is then forced on the run. The story does have a very slow start, which turns a lot of readers away, but I think all of that changes when the main villain is introduced. He's not the typical modern antagonist in that people try to humanize him or give justifications to why he is the way he is. He is a bad guy, and he likes to indulge himself into it. And watching the dynamic between these two characters is very entertaining. The main appeal for this story, though, for me, is in its art. The art starts out off alright at the start, but it really grows into what I think is one of the best looking manga in the medium. It's one of the most immersive series that I've ever read, and the art is used very well to create these very immersive action segments. And honestly, this series reads like cinema. Spirit Circle. Futa is pretty much your average middle school student, except for a few things. He has a weird birthmark on his cheek, and he can see ghosts. After meeting a transfer student within his class and accidentally revealing his birthmark to her, it's also revealed to Futa that birthmark is a curse given to him from her in a previous life for a great crime that he has committed. It's also revealed that the two of them are reincarnated and are doomed to kill each other for all of eternity. What then ensues is several dreamlike visions where Futa relives his previous lives, and it's slowly revealed to us as the reader who he was in his past and why the transfer student holds so much anger against him. I'd like to ask that people don't be distracted by the art style. Yes, it looks very childish, but the story is quite the opposite. It tells some really mature, gripping, and sometimes really dark stories, and I wouldn't want you to think otherwise because of the art. Now, what makes this story really great is the range of stories it can tell with its concept. When reliving Futa's previous lives, we're met with a wide variety of stories, some of romance, some of loss, some of tragedy. All very impactful though. And sometimes watching these stories unfold and then switching back to the present, you too as the reader can feel so much loss at leaving these characters behind. But I think the main strength for this is watching Futa slowly unravel this mystery of what happened in his previous life. What did he do? What was this great crime that he has to be punished for? Is very compelling to read. The record of the Wortenia War. Ryoma is summoned into another world by a warmongering empire. After being summoned, he's to be forcefully enslaved into fighting for this empire. But unlike other isekai protagonists, he is built different. He immediately kills the people who summon him and then is immediately on the run from there on. Now, yes, this is an isekai, but it's not like the other isekai. It's not particularly harem-focused or a power fantasy, nor is the story particularly focused on a character who's had a very traumatic life in the past and then trying to make up for that in the other world. The story really starts to begin when Ryoma settles down and finds a place to call home. Much of the story focuses on a war between several nations and the politics around this. And Ryoma's place in this, it's not as a fighter, but rather as a general. His main strength isn't his physical prowess, but rather his brain and his tactics, something he learned in his previous life through his grandfather, but also the art of war. And the most interesting part of this story is when we focus on the tactics and we focus on the planning around these wars. If I had to describe this story, it's sort of like if Kingdom was an isekai. Mercenary Enrollment. Ajin loses his parents at the age of 8 and is stranded on another land. He's then unfortunately forced to become a child mercenary. After 10 years, he's finally returned back home to his country of Korea, where he meets back up with what's left of his family. Ajin then uses his strength and the skills he's developed over the course of the last 10 years as mercenary to solve issues that he finds back home, while also trying to protect what he now has. What I particularly love about this story is it's very heartwarming. Watching you relearn what it's like to have a family again, to have people who actually care for him, and to be in a warming and loving environment is very heartwarming. And also watching how the three of them, you, his sister, and his grandfather, both care for each other, and just the little moments they share as a family, it's very compelling to watch. It's very heartwarming. Now, I do have to address the elephant in the room. This is not a manga, this is a manhwa. But the only difference I really see between the two is one is color. It has some great art and some really, really great fights as well. And you won't be disappointed if you spend your time reading this. The real question though is how long will Yu's life of normalcy last, and how long can he keep his past a secret? So yeah, there's 5 manga you haven't read. I hope you found something new to read. Bye.